It's Drive Time with Holly. Business and consumer news you can trust. I mean, what else are you going to do sitting in traffic?
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And can you believe it, Holly? 2017 is almost over.
It's almost in the books.
This year flew by. I don't know if it did for you, but It flew by to me.
I feel like the older we get, the more we say that, and then you can kind of hear your parents and your grandparents' voice in your head.
I know.
And it's a thing. I mean, the year's gone before it starts, and I've already penciled in 10 out of 12 months for 2018.
Have you really?
I have, and I feel
really
terrible.
behind now.
And that's one of the selfish reasons that I wanted to do today's show was because, I need to start 2018 with a little bit more balance and setting, a few more mindful intentions for the upcoming year. So we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions.
Exactly right.
We're going to talk about some of the traditional ones. We're going to talk about some of the maybe not so obvious ones. But we want to learn about, what really works and how can we start off 2018 on a better foot.
Yeah, so 2017 is almost over, but the good news is we're coming into another year.
That's right.
2018.
Right.
And like you said, one of the things people think about this week is New Year's resolutions.
That's right.
And so we have actually a list of like the top 10 New Year's resolutions. And number one is the obvious one. It's the one that everyone thinks about and goes to first, and that's losing weight and healthier eating.
That's right. So joining us in studio is Patti Albertson from the Jewish Community Center here in Maitland. She is a personal trainer, and we asked her here so that we could talk about kind of the probably the most popular or most dreaded, depending on how you look at it, New Year's resolution. But what we want to talk about is, it's the most common, but how can we be more successful? So Patti, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
So as you see new clients coming in, I'm sure you're gearing up for the first of the year when all the machines have a waiting list.
Correct.
Right. At what point in 2018 will the machines start to free up?
February 1st.
Wow.
Oh, so the first month.
It's a month. It's about a month.
So people really are... They go gangbusters, and then when they fall off the wagon or when they don't meet their own high expectations, they just 4 weeks in and they're giving up.
They're done. What ends up happening, I think people are so hard on themselves, and I think if you just say to yourself, I have to make me time. Me time is any time during a day that you could go and work out. It gives you serotonin, epinephrine in your brain. It gives you a high, good feeling that I accomplished something for myself. Right. And it doesn't mean that you can't eat anything. It doesn't mean everybody thinks a diet, New Year's resolutions. I can't have French fries. I can't have cheeseburger. I can't have pizza. You really could have whatever you want. The key is portion control.
So you've been at this a number of years. When you have new clients, come to work out with you or start coming to the gym, do you almost hate, do you hate to see when they've come in with this whole regimen and they want to completely change their life? Is that sustainable? Are you setting yourself up to fail?
Yes, you are. This is the thing. I love doing what I do. I think the me time factor is so important. We all have kids. We all have families. We have parents. We have friends, and you try to make time for everybody. Make time for yourself, okay? That doesn't mean go on a diet. I'm not eating anything. I'm just having tuna fish. That's it. I'm going to the gym every single day for an hour. You don't need to do that. You just need to say to yourself, you know what? This year is the year that I am going to make time for myself, whether it's 2 days a week, 3 days a week. Go for a walk. Go to the gym. Get a trainer, go to a class, do Pilates, walk outside, do anything. It just is such a good stress relief for anybody. And that's really the most important thing. Stop being so crazy as to, I have to lose weight, I have to do this. Because you know what? You're just not going to be able to attain that.
It sounds like what you're talking about then is sort of a lifestyle change, a change of mindset in your everyday life.
Correct.
Well, and it sounds like, too, that if your goal is to make more time for myself and to go to the gym or to work out so that I, can blow off some stress, or so that I just make time for myself and my thoughts, that's a much less stressful, goal or resolution than I'm going to lose 150 pounds.
Correct.
And I'm going to, get back into my, pre-baby jeans, or
Right.
I'm going to get back to the size I was when I was a senior in high school. I mean, those are some really big goals, and you either pass or you fail on that.
It's stressful. You're stressing yourself out.
Right.
And you want to make yourself happy. How you can make yourself happy is going and doing something for yourself. Just say, you know what? This year, I'm not going to worry about weight. I'm not going to worry about, I have to look like this. Do it for yourself. Take time. And guess what? You're consistent. You make time. All those things are going to happen. They're going to happen. Have fun. Be happy. That's what we're all in life about.
And I think that most of us know. I mean, many of us have been successful with diet plans or services or group meetings or whatever. But I think most of us know right from wrong, in the basic sense of it when it comes to diet and nutrition. I mean, we know that, 4 slices of pizza is too much.
Right.
1 slice of pizza, is that okay? Or starting the new year, should I be going to chicken and steamed broccoli?
Okay. So this is the problem. Everybody thinks, oh my God, I'm going to work out and I have to be like on a strict diet. Once you say the word diet, you're done. You all of a sudden are so hungry, more hungry than you ever were before.
Right.
You
Funny how that
never
happens.
craved, yeah, right. You never craved cheesecake or anything. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I have to have that. If you just try to watch your portion, you could eat anything. You have a cheeseburger or a hamburger, take off the top of the bun. You know what's too much and what's not enough.
And a lot of us have spent the holidays saying, all right, it's the holidays. I'm not going to deprive myself over the holidays because starting in January, I'm going to do what's right. But,
and they overdo it in the
right.
holidays.
The problem with that is when you have overdone it in the holidays with sweets and all those things that you normally have now and then, but all of a sudden the holidays get here and there are platters of it everywhere you go. You've really kind of set yourself up for if you go from December and, sweets and cheese and bread and all these things, and then you go into January and you've gone to this strict diet, you've drawn an even more pronounced line between where I was and where I'm going.
You know what? It's the holidays. Enjoy yourself. Don't make yourself crazy. Make yourself happy. Do something for yourself. I'm telling you, whatever the plan is, when you are working out and you are done and you have achieved a goal and you go, you know what? I did it today. Do you know how good you feel about yourself?
Even if it's just 15, 20 minutes on the treadmill.
Even if it's just walking around the block 2 times or 1 time, start somewhere.
Yeah.
It is, I'm telling you, it is so funny, but it's as easy as that. You are much happier. You could deal with stress. You could deal with things. It's like, how come I'm feeling better today? Why? Me time. Me time.
Yeah.
10 minutes, 15 minutes, a half an hour. You don't have to go to the gym an hour. Take the time for yourself.
Right. So you're a personal trainer. There are obviously people who maybe do well in a group exercise class,
right,
or just an open gym environment. Talk a little bit about the different options and where you work.
Okay, I work at the Jewish Community Center. It is awesome. I love it. It's sort of like Cheers, where everybody knows your name.
Do you have to be Jewish?
No, you do not have to be Jewish. As a matter of fact, I think it's 55% or more aren't Jewish.
Oh, okay.
So, it's a great place. They have everything there. They have swimming. We have classes. We have Pilates. We have boot camps, all free. with your membership.
So let me, I don't mean to interrupt.
Go.
I always hear boot camps. Like, so what does that mean?
Okay, there's a couple different boot camps. Boot camps where you go in the gym, you run around, you do exercises.
Flip tires. They flip tires.
No, we don't flip tires.
no.
Sorry,
No?
we
Okay.
don't do that. We don't do the tire flipping.
Oh, good.
You come to the J, it is a lot of camaraderie. It's a lot of fun. So you have a boot camp in a gym. You run around the gym. You may step up on the bleachers. You may do some planks, push-ups. And then we
Gotcha.
have a boot camp where it's basically personal training, and you go into the gym. You go on the treadmill. I set up about 5 or 6 things, and it's camaraderie. Everybody does it. Go back on the treadmill. It's really fun.
Sounds
It is
fun.
really fun. I love going to work.
And, for a lot of people, and I'm one of them, a class or a trainer is what I would have to do because I need the accountability. If you put me in a gym with a treadmill and a TV in front of me, I will walk on the lowest setting for as long as possible. But if I have a trainer pushing me, that's where my success is.
Yeah, with me, it's a little similar. The thing always scared me about going to a gym is I wouldn't know what I was doing. So I could understand why some people, I need that. I need that guidance.
Right.
But I will tell you at the J, which is really, I think, amazing, when you get a membership, you get 4 free personal trainings. So what we do is you come in and we get you familiar with the gym. We tell you where to go, what to do, show you how to do a cardio, get you on all the machines with the setting that is perfect for you, your back, your seat, your knees, whatever it is, tell you how many reps to do. And then we put it on a card. You come back 3 other times. After the first time, every single person during the consult says, wow, like I could do this. Mm-hmm. It's really, and we give everybody that feeling because when you go to a gym, you walk in, you're like, I don't know what to do. I look like an idiot. Oh, my God. They could tell I'm not a workout person. It doesn't matter. So that's what I love about the J. You will not walk into the gym and go, what am I going to do? You are going to be going, I can't wait to go tomorrow.
Oh, that's great. So we've been talking with Patti Albertson, who is a personal trainer at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center. If people want to find out more about the Jewish Community Center, should they just walk in? Or
you could walk in. You could go to orlandojcc.org. You could go to sports and fitness. But, if there's ever any questions or anything, they could email me. I would be happy to answer anything. They could come and look around. There's a lot of things that you could do. And you know what? Don't be embarrassed. Go and do it for yourself. Go do something.
And I think the great takeaway is just do something. You don't have to start off big, walk around the block. Patty's saying you don't have to go big just because it's January 1. Just start somewhere.
Right. So that was one of our New Year's resolutions that a lot of people have: losing weight, healthier lifestyle, maybe working out. We have much more that we want to talk about, and we're going to get to that in the next segment. You're listening to Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Drive Time with Holly. Business and consumer news you can trust.
Yes, and it is almost that time where you're going to have to make your New Year's resolutions, and hopefully you'll keep them this year in 2018. We're coming up on the new year, and that's what we're talking about today on Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And number 3, in the last segment we were talking about one of the biggest, probably the biggest New Year's resolution for a lot of people is losing weight, healthier eating, working out, getting in shape. But on our list of top 10 New Year's resolutions, number 3 is also a bigger one, and that's making better financial decisions. That might be one I need to circle as well. So we're going to talk about that in this segment.
Making better financial decisions is something, right up there with eating better and working out. Very often it can seem insurmountable, and especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck, and your income is just barely meeting your needs. It can feel like this ever mounting. I don't know, that the snowball is getting bigger and bigger, and either you're acquiring more and more debt, or you're just not very efficiently digging out of it. So we wanted to bring an expert in because this is something that I know a lot of people struggle with, and we wanted to be able to offer some advice on how people can make resolutions as it relates to finances, but make resolutions that are attainable and that can actually make a difference in your life for 2018.
Yes, and so we are talking with Kelly Gegerson, who is the Senior Vice President at Iberia Bank, and she's going to give us that expert advice for the new year on our financial decisions. So,
Kelly, thank you for joining us. How can, we're talking about people who are living paycheck to paycheck, and if you're just barely getting by and you're paying the minimums on your credit card bills and things like that, is it possible to start saving? I mean, where can I start, or how can I start 2018 off on a better financial foot if I'm already just treading water?
I think anytime we're looking at our lives, especially on the financial side of things, it can be really overwhelming. We just need to get organized. And there's so many tools that are free and available to us that are out there, as simple as our online banking and making sure that we understand where our money is going, utilizing our debit cards and seeing where that money is going, putting ourselves on a budget, writing things down, small goals. It can be $5 that you want to set aside in a savings account. It can be making sure that you're matching on your 401k and taking advantage of that free money that your employer might have available to you. And just making a conscious choice that I want to create some type of a savings goal. And it could be for 6 months worth of savings that our financial advisors want us to aspire to. It could be something as exciting as saving for a trip or a special family event. But when you're mindful about what you're doing and you take a look at how you're spending your money and kind of being real with yourself, all of a sudden you realize that you can take $1 or $2 and maybe round up when you're balancing your checkbook and taking that extra change and moving it over to a savings account just to get started, and really congratulating yourself for those small steps.
So you mentioned balancing your checkbook. Yaffe, have you ever balanced a checkbook?
Yes, believe it or not,
Good for
when
you.
I first started, it's been a while, but when I first started having a checking account, it was right when the debit card thing was just coming in. So, yes.
So do you think that the fact that most of us are doing the primary amount of our spending via a debit card, which in essence is plastic,
Sure.
Do you think that makes frivolous spending easier than back in the day when we were writing checks or using cash? Could that be part of the problem?
No, I think technology makes it so easy for us to keep track of things, whether it's an app through your bank or an external app or something through Intuit or QuickBooks. Whether you're a business owner or you're on the personal side, what's nice about our technology is that we can utilize it to help ourselves. So I think we had to do math when we balanced our checkbooks beforehand, and now we don't have to do that. Right. So I think we have more available to us, and to just be aware. All too often, finances are very intimidating.
Yeah.
And if you sit down with a professional or go in and meet with your local banker and ask them just for some tips and guidance, I think the education and the advice and the guidance is where it's at right now.
So a lot of us have gone to using our banking services online, making mobile deposits. And I think most of us are going into a branch location of our bank less and less. Talk a little bit about what services can we utilize in a branch location of a bank. Could I go in, even if I'm not a millionaire or even a $100,000 heir? Could I go into a branch location and ask to sit down with someone and have them work with me on a budget? What type of services can I expect from that face-to-face interaction at a branch?
You're going to get all kinds of people that can help you. And what's nice is the banks now, not only do you have to walk in face-to-face, but you can chat, you can tweet, you can email. There's all kinds of ways to be in contact with individuals. But I think when we reach out and we talk to professionals that are experts in their area, they maybe think about things a little differently or see it through a different lens to give you different kinds of ideas. For example, making sure that you're utilizing your rewards programs on your credit cards. If you're already swiping the card, you might as well reap the benefits. and understanding what's available. It's nice to every once in a while. I like to once a quarter check in and review what I'm doing, talk about my budget. If I can get people to do it once a year, that would be great. Take a look at your interest rates. See if there's ways to do credit card transfers. Are your home equity lines of credit fixed or are they variable? We're in a rising interest rate environment. Are we aware of what's going on? And how can we give ourselves the right kind of information so we can go out and make meaningful decisions about our finances?
You know, one thing that's really interesting that, it's kind of a theme on what you're saying, and it was also a theme on our first segment when talking about losing weight, is it's just the small things. It's simple little steps that can get you started on the right path. Would you say like one of the biggest mistakes people make is they try to do too much too soon? Or
I think that people sometimes don't do anything because they're so overwhelmed. For example, my specialty are business owners. I'm a commercial banker, and my clients are very good at their business, whether they're manufacturing something, they're a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, whatever it is. But what they forget about are the details about how to protect their money and protect what it is that they've worked so hard to earn. So things like, do they have a will? Do they have insurance? Are they saving for their children's college fund? Are they utilizing 529s? And talking to their CPAs about tax write-offs and how our new tax plan might be impacting their lives and what are the best moves to make for 2018. And I think when you schedule time to sit down with individuals and ask the right questions and make sure that you have the right kind of trusted advisors around you, then you're going to be positioned to make the right decisions.
And I think that's a great point because, Patti mentioned in the first segment that you just make time for you. And this is similar advice. Make time for you because, when it comes to making financial plans or planning for the future, planning to save. And then, you made an excellent point about wills and things like that. That's something that a lot of us don't really want to think about and don't want to face. But certainly that could be, a really great, goal to set for yourself for the upcoming year is, I'm going to tackle that. My spouse and I, we need to tackle that. We need to accomplish that this year because it's important. And you can really make your loved ones and the future of your business. It's a much cleaner transition, and you can really do yourself a favor by doing that planning ahead of time.
I often will tell my clients to put things like this on their calendar. This is going to be a second quarter goal or a third quarter goal. Schedule the appointment. Make sure it's there. Hold yourself accountable to it, and then those tasks get completed. Another thing that we have to be aware of on the financial side is that we're very susceptible to fraud. So much is available online, and our individuals will go out of their way to steal our identities. So one of the pieces of advice I give all my clients is to go to annualcreditreport.com. It's the only free place to get a credit report. Check, see what's out there. Make sure that you're the one that's going out and borrowing things because your credit score is how you go out and borrow money at a great interest rate.
Right.
And it's worth checking out.
And Floridians can do that once a year for free. And you don't have to pay for that. And that produces a report from each of the 3 credit bureaus. Now, it's not going to necessarily produce your credit score, but that's really not all that necessary unless you're looking to do things like major purchases. But that annual credit report can help you kind of monitor your open accounts, your revolving lines of credit, and make sure, to Kelly's point, that there are no accounts open out there in your name that you didn't open or that you weren't aware of.
So that could be something. Part of your New Year's resolution is just checking that annual credit report. So we've been talking with Kelly Gegerson, who is the Senior Vice President at Iberia Bank, talking about New Year's resolutions, dealing with your finances. We have much more New Year's resolutions to talk about on our list, and we're going to get to that coming up next. You're listening to Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And we will be right back.
Welcome back to Drive Time with Holly. Business and consumer news you can trust.
Yes, and believe it or not, we are already at the end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018. And that really is the topic of discussion on this edition of Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Better Business Bureau CEO, Holly.
And we've been talking about New Year's resolutions, which is on a lot of people's minds when, at the new year, obviously. Right. And we were going through our list, and we talked about, number one was losing weight, healthier eating. In the last segment, we talked about making better financial decisions, which ends up number 3 on the list. And then number 2 on the list is very interesting. And I think a lot of people definitely want to do this in the new year. And it's just a life and self-improvements, managing your life better, managing your stress better. So that's what we're going to talk about in this segment. Yeah,
when I was planning, what we were going to talk about at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, I think New Year's resolutions is an easy topic because it's top of a lot of people's minds. You're going to hear about it in the news. You're going to hear about it, in the paper and social media. But really what struck me was one thing that I personally am going to really work on in 2018 is work-life balance.
Yeah, and balance is the key word, I think.
Right, and learning to maybe better deal with stress and not take on so much that you heap it on yourself, and that you, when it comes to health and wellness, when it comes to finances, when it comes to, mental health and wellness, self-improvement, these are all things that if you don't start somewhere, you never start to kind of unravel the problem that could grow and get bigger and bigger. And certainly stress and self-improvement is something that you have to start somewhere. And oftentimes you need a professional to help you do that.
Yes. So we are going to talk to a professional right now. We're talking with Dr. Leigh Rosenberg, who joins us in the studio, and he's going to talk about just managing your life better in 2018. And before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I'm a clinical psychologist. I've been in Florida and practicing since 1985. I've worked with a lot of chronic pain and disease syndrome patients, as well as lots of people that have various anxiety and depression syndromes. I also work with a lot of people that have problems with self-esteem, and I pride myself on trying to find for them creative how-to strategies so that they can be tortoises in this race toward the end line of self-improvement and feeling better about themselves and being able to relate better with others.
Because it's not an easy or a quick fix. It's something that you have to be committed to putting the work in.
It's a lot of work. I don't know much more complicated than making lifestyle changes. I recently had a session with a middle-aged man who has made considerable strides and at this point wanted to work more on self-improvement issues. And we looked at 7 different areas of his life, where he's at now, where he'd like to be in a year or 3 years. And just as I was about to say to him that I think you're going to find this overwhelming because there's only so much you can do in 1 year or 2 years, he voiced that he was overwhelmed by taking a look at it on a piece of paper in black and white and seeing that this is really a long-term project, and that I need to sit down and write down very specific, small, incremental goals, and then get to work at the process of moving toward who I want to be.
So the holidays, we're still, in the midst of holidays, and many people are just having friends and family leave town. The holidays are a time of really heightened emotions for a lot of people. Family gatherings can be wonderful, but they can also be really stressful. Don't you think it's important for people to kind of own that and not try to kind of put a Band-Aid over it? I mean, let's call it what it is. It can be stressful.
Well, despite the fact that I focus a lot on people's ways of thinking, there's no question that it's very important for people to deal with their actual emotions and to have them, own them, and then decide what they might want to do with them, how they want to behave in response to them. This time of year is very difficult for a lot of people because of not only stresses in terms of the workplace stresses, in terms of family members coming in from out of time and restarting or rekindling relationship with them. But one of my pet peeves is the difficulty that people have with their family simply listening to each other and accepting that other people have different opinions and that it might be worthwhile to join with them, not necessarily agreeing with their opinion, but agreeing with the fact that it's worthwhile to have a connection with them. I deal with a lot of people who unfortunately are in situations that they don't have social networks that they can bank on and social supports. And although they still are available in the community through different kinds of organizations, actually that has lessened in recent years. And it leaves people then more isolated and needing to have ways to connect with other people, even if it's in superficial conversations.
So, and you encourage them to actually make connections with those family members and really try to do that, even if there's been some disagreement there in the past.
Absolutely. And many times what we do is rehearse different kinds of ways they could go about dealing with family members by, again, the pet peeve of listening first, and then seeing if the other family member might be willing to listen in response to being listened to, as opposed to having a conversation where there's a competition about whose opinion is more valuable, who's right, who's wrong.
If you only see certain members of your family at the holidays, is that the time to really sit down and hash out these differences, or should you kind of save that for another day? Are the holidays, if you see your family only once or twice a year, is that the time to really sit down and try to find a common ground, or is the old passive aggressive, let's ignore the conflict between us for today and we'll deal with this later? What's the better approach?
Well, if it's a situation where there's a very toxic family history, it might be best not to use this kind of meeting during the holidays to try and rectify everything. But in many other circumstances, this is the time to talk to people. They're right here in front of you, and it may be the time to take a risk to connect with them, because there are too many people, of course, that I deal with that wait too long. And we're talking about the regrets they have for never making any effort to talk with these family members and at least having some kind of relationship, even if it isn't the optimal or ideal relationship.
So how do you feel about New Year's resolutions and people saying, okay, I'm going to start with January and here are my goals for the year, whether they're health or financial or self-improvement? Are we setting ourselves up to fail by starting off the year, piling on an extra list of to-dos?
I think that as long as your New Year's resolutions are going to be made every week, okay, we're okay. I don't like the idea.
So not just a one-time thing. All right.
Not a one-time thing. I propose to people that many times businessmen or people in different walks of life where they have business meetings. And I propose to people that why not consider, since they seem to work, although sometimes are frustrating or boring, that they have business meetings with themselves and that they actually sit down and work on particular goals, whatever area of life that it is, whether it's social, whether it's emotional.
So it doesn't have to be, you say business meeting with yourself, but it doesn't have to be like work related or business related.
Absolutely not. It many times is about who do I want to be, what do I want to learn, how do I want to improve myself. In earlier segments, you were talking about in exercise, in terms of better eating patterns, financial kinds of goals. But the message clearly is that this is not a one-time kind of project, and most people grossly underestimate how difficult these changes are and how much commitment you have to make, how much planning you have to do in order to give yourself a fair chance at having success.
So we talked about earlier that, you want to identify your networks of people and whether those be friends or coworkers or family. So do you mean to tell me that social media and that network of friends, that's not good enough?
That can be good for some people. I'm not going to say that people don't benefit from that. There are many kinds of different support groups and things like that you can gain from in social networking. The problem is the selection process where people only end up talking with individuals who agree with their own opinions. And it ends up that the research seems to indicate the more people do that, actually the more isolated they become, especially in their day-to-day encounters with real people. Because
I know, for me anyway, sometimes you feel a false sense of engagement. You may feel like you've had some sort of social engagement with someone only because you've gotten an update on what's happening in their life, when really that wasn't a person-to-person engagement. You were just kind of adding more information into your bank of knowledge, and it really was a meaningful conversation or a meaningful exchange of information between friends. It's just, you can't always get what you need as far as social interaction from reading people's timelines on social media.
It becomes a vicarious source of connection with people. And many people can fool themselves into believing that's the same as a real connection with another human being. It is interesting to see how many people have those kinds of social networking connections, but would never write to each other in a longer kind of email. They would never speak to each other on the telephone and have a more detailed conversation. I've said to many people who have come in my door that texting and working out your emotional life with people by texting, has been a great boon to my practice. Because so much is misunderstood,
right,
when you try to do it in that fashion.
I think that happens in social media as well, and I think this might be a topic we can pick up even in the next segment. We're talking New Year's resolutions. We've been talking with Dr. Leigh Rosenberg on better balance, managing your life a little bit better, managing stress a little bit better, and we're going to continue the conversation in the next segment. You're listening to Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And we'll be right back.
Let's be better consumers. You're listening to Drive Time with Holly.
Yes, you are listening to Drive Time with Holly. I am Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And it's almost the new year. We're the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018. People are making their New Year's resolutions. They're thinking about they're planning for the next year. I mean, you said, Holly, that you have the next 10 months already planned.
Yeah, and that's not by choice. It's because starting in November, I started receiving, calendar notifications and people who are wanting to set up meetings with me every month for the next 12 months. And so you have to start scheduling that. And then when you, you work your family in there, and then you have family dates that get worked in there. And it's not difficult to find yourself already overwhelmed with the next year before it even gets here. So, it's our hope that this show can help people not make those New Year's resolutions that are so easy to break, or those New Year's resolutions that are easy to laugh about come February 1st, but to make New Year's resolutions that 5 years down the road, you can really be thankful that, I'm thankful that I put paid some attention to that area of my life because it really made a difference.
Yeah, and if you missed any of the show, by the way, we do post the podcast of the show on our social media. So how do they get that?
That's right. You can visit drivetimeholly.com, and you will see previous shows there. And then also after every show, we post follow-up information for each of our guests, how you can find them, oftentimes a little bit of information, follow-up information about what they talked about, because it's just impossible to cover everything in the time that we have. So sometimes we'll continue the conversation there.
Yeah, and like you said, we want to make you more informed. And any topic we talk about actually is making you more informed so you can make better decisions, not just these short decisions that you can break later, but better lifelong decisions. And I think we've done a good job of that today.
Yep. So we're going to continue the conversation with Dr. Rosenberg. We were talking about before the break how people can make resolutions or pay more attention to their own self-improvement or maybe work towards some goals in 2018. Dr. Rosenberg, how do people know when it's time to seek help and all the stigma that's attached to that phrase in itself? But what's the difference between I know that we could probably cover an entire hour on this, but what's the difference between me seeing a psychologist, me seeing a psychiatrist, a therapist, and a counselor?
A psychiatrist goes to an undergraduate degree school, a college, goes to medical school for 4 years, and then will take postdoctoral training for 1 to 4 years, specifically in psychopharmacology or use of medications for people that have different kinds of psychiatric disorders. A psychologist goes to a 4-year college degree, then goes to a graduate school. It's usually 5 years plus 1 year of internship. Sometimes it's longer. I did it a little differently. It took a little longer because of practicum training. There are licensed mental health counselors who will earn a master's degree, specifically in counseling. There are other kinds of counselors and paraprofessionals, who have lesser kinds of training.
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrupt, but we're actually just frankly out of time. We're going to post more about this on our social media, so you want to check that out. I want to thank all our guests for coming in, and hopefully we have made it so you can keep your New Year's resolution this year. You've been listening to Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And we will catch you guys next time.